Oh, remember when Meghan Markle was supposed to be the next big Hollywood comeback story? You know, the reinvented Duchess, the self-proclaimed feminist entrepreneur, the podcast powerhouse who was going to revolutionize everything she touched? Yeah. Well, fast forward to now, and the only thing she's relaunching is a pathetic table of runny spread in some bougie bookstore that probably reeks of oat milk and sheer desperation. Let's talk about this laughable ARO pop-up at Godmothers Bookstore, shall we? You know, the one she personally set up with all the enthusiasm of a sulky teenager reluctantly restocking canned beans for court-ordered community service hours. The Instagram reel shows Meghan arranging candles and fruit spreads as if this were some major luxury launch worthy of Vogue coverage. Except, plot twist, it's happening upstairs in a bookstore conveniently owned by her wealthy friends. Because when you can't convince actual retailers to stock your products on merit alone, why not just guilt-trip your wealthy Montecito pals into giving you a sad little corner of their boutique and call it a pop-up experience? This isn't Harrods, darling. It's a glorified book club hangout with an overpriced espresso machine and delusions of grandeur. And yet, Meghan desperately wants the world to believe she's cracked the code of high-end retail distribution. Godmother's Bookstore isn't even open to the general public in its upper levels, by the way. It's a members-only lounge, which sounds fancy until you realise it's just another Montecito click zone where everyone's relentlessly beige and pretending to care about mindfulness while buying overpriced candles they'll never burn. Let's set the scene, shall we? A few ladies playing mahjong, probably discussing their latest charitable tax write-offs. A bookshelf awkwardly pretending to be a retail display. And Meghan's sad little stack of ARO jars collecting dust like forgotten royal souvenirs nobody asked for. It's giving clearance sale meets failed influencer launch meets please buy my stuff. You know it's spectacularly bad when the fruit spread looks lonelier than Harry at a royal garden party surrounded by the family he publicly trashed. And of course, Oprah had to swoop in to save the day again. How shocking. She featured Meghan's jam in her annual favourite things list, which, let's be brutally real here, is basically the QVC of rich people pretending they discovered something organic. Meghan calls it the season's quintessential guide to gifting, which is absolutely adorable because we all know you can literally pay to get your product featured on that list. Nothing says authenticity like your billionaire bestie throwing you a pity mention squeezed between a $900 air fryer and an organic cashmere throw. Naturally, ARO capitalised on the moment with a celebratory email blast offering 10% off. The first time Meghan's ever given any kind of discount, mind you. Because when your brand's carefully constructed image is crumbling faster than your Netflix contract, you do what every floundering influencer does. Slap a desperate coupon code on your failure and pray someone, anyone, bites. If Meghan's brand were truly flying off the shelves like she claimed, she wouldn't need to stash her surplus stock in a tiny bookstore's cramped upstairs room. Now would she? A sewer stuff in Godmothers, someone brutally joked online. And honestly, they weren't far off at all. Think about it critically. A room upstairs tucked behind the corner where her jars sit like forgotten raffle prizes at a church fundraiser. The vibe isn't luxury boutique. It's craft fair table your desperate aunt set up after binge-watching too many Shark Tank episodes and thinking she's the next big thing. What's worse is that this isn't some big retailer taking a calculated chance on her brand. She's not in Target or even Whole Foods. She's literally paying to have her products displayed in her friend's shop as a personal favour. This isn't entrepreneurship, folks. It's subsidised self-delusion with a pretty Instagram filter. No legitimate sales contracts, no genuine hype, no proof of sustainable business concept. Just Meghan, her aggressively beige branding, and a prayer that someone pretends to care. And that's another thing that needs addressing. Beige. Everything about this brand screams oppressively beige. The jars, the labels, the decor, even Meghan herself lately. Beige on more beige, like she took the personality out of colour and bottled it as a lifestyle choice. The only contrast is the occasional overpriced candle that probably smells like Montecito mediocrity and broken Hollywood dreams. People keep comparing her setup to a high-end garage sale, and honestly, that's far too generous a comparison. At least garage sales attract bargain hunters and have personality. Here, it's just her rich neighbours pretending to be supportive while secretly wondering how to slip out without buying anything or hurting her feelings. The women in the store weren't even looking at her precious table in the promotional photos. And the delicious irony? She once bragged her products sold out in a miraculous 45 minutes, which now looks about as believable as her infamous "I never Googled Harry" story. If those jams genuinely sold out that fast, why is she suddenly sitting on what looks like her entire overstock inventory shoved into one desperate display? Maybe the only thing selling fast these days is her rapidly declining credibility. Then there's the so-called brick-and-mortar deal she keeps obnoxiously boasting about to anyone who'll listen. Normally, that impressive phrase means landing coveted shelf space in a store with real foot traffic. You know, thousands of actual customers a day, maybe a Target, maybe a Williams-Sonoma, maybe somewhere people actually shop. But no, Meghan's deal is with a cosy, low-footfall bookstore owned by her Montecito clique. It's like bragging about getting a record deal and then finding out it's just your cousin's garage band recording in their basement. To make matters even worse, the upstairs space at Godmothers is a members-only area, meaning the average person can't even walk in to see her products without paying. You literally have to pay a monthly membership fee just to enter the space where her jam sits gathering dust. Nothing says accessible luxury brand for everyone, like locking your jam behind a literal velvet rope and paywall, right? The elitism would be hilariously ironic if it weren't so perfectly on brand for someone who preaches about accessibility. And can we talk about how Meghan's shamelessly using her royal past to push this nonsense? For someone who supposedly denounced the royal family and everything they stand for, she sure conveniently leans on that Duchess title every single time she's trying to sell something. By the Duchess of Sussex has become her version of as seen on TV, a desperate credibility marker for products nobody wants. Meanwhile, Oprah's plug didn't move the needle one bit. Nobody genuinely listens to Oprah's favourite things anymore with any real enthusiasm. It's basically a glorified ad section that lost its sparkle and credibility years ago. You can almost hear her audience sigh collectively when she goes, "And next up, Meghan Markle's fruit spread." Wealthy Oprah telling her struggling viewers to buy overpriced jam is a cosmic joke. No one's biting, literally or figuratively, no matter how much they try to manufacture buzz. So where does that leave our dear Meghan? Selling jam in a bookstore that doubles as a members-only lounge, calling it a revolutionary pop-up, and desperately pretending she's disrupting the lifestyle market with her brilliance. Netflix has moved on to actual content people watch. Spotify ghosted her after her podcast flopped spectacularly, and even Fashion Week didn't want her sitting front row. Now, she's shilling candles next to the self-help section in a friend's bookstore. It's tragic. It's comedic. It's peak Markle desperation. You can almost picture the awkward scene playing out. 5 women sitting upstairs at Godmothers, absolutely none of them interested in her table or products. Maybe one buys a jar out of pure pity before heading back to her friends and real conversation. Meghan stands there smiling desperately for an iPhone video, pretending she's building an empire while everything crumbles. It's giving pyramid scheme party energy, honestly. The kind where you show up for free snacks, buy one thing to be polite and avoid confrontation, and vow never to return again. And then there's the colour scheme, the precious aesthetic she's curated. Everything screams carefully curated, but comes off completely lifeless and cold. A monotone palette that somehow manages to feel smug and superior. It's like if minimalism had an inflated ego and a superiority complex. No joy, no vibrancy, no warmth, just the same dreary beige that perfectly matches her entire tone-deaf PR strategy. Her devoted fans will predictably say it's elevated and sophisticated. The rest of us can see it for what it actually is. A desperate attempt to stay relevant in an industry that's moved on. She's not running a lifestyle brand with any substance. She's running a clearance event disguised as empowerment and female entrepreneurship. Each candle feels like a cry for help. Each jam jar represents a symbol of a PR team on life support, desperately trying to manufacture interest. Meanwhile, actual successful entrepreneurs are out here genuinely innovating, scaling their businesses, and expanding into real markets. Meghan? She's renting shelf space in a friend's vanity bookstore and calling it a movement, a revolution, the next big thing. If this is her big comeback attempt, Hollywood's going to need a much bigger popcorn machine to watch this train wreck unfold. To sum it all up, Meghan Markle's ARO brand at Godmothers Bookstore is less a retail revolution and more a sad parody of one. It's not a pop-up, it's a pop-down into irrelevance. Not a business, but a social favour from wealthy friends. Not luxury, but leftover products nobody wanted the first time around. So yes, Meghan is now officially a local artisan, in the same way your delusional neighbour is a CAO after opening an Etsy shop selling mediocre crafts. If there were ever definitive proof that celebrity branding has hit absolute rock bottom, it's this pathetic display. Meghan Markle selling jam in a bookstore, desperately pretending it's a lifestyle empire while the world watches in second-hand embarrassment.